My name is Jane and this is my story. So I grew up in Campbelltown, which is southwest of Sydney. Yeah, my parents built their own house in the street. It was the first house to be built in the street, so it was like a new suburb at the time. And I think my parents thought that it was going to be a great new area with a little public school down the road, and the school was never built. And so when we kind of got to school age, my mum slaved away and sent us to a private school, which was not very enjoyable. My parents worked really, really hard to do that because my dad's a mechanic and my mum's a nurse. When I was 5, I just one day came home and said I wanted to play the violin for no apparent reason. I hadn't been introduced to it by anybody really, and my mum thought that would be awful to listen to as a 5-year-old, and so kind of put me off for a little while. But by the time I was 7, I really wanted to play the violin, so she finally got me lessons, and I played all the way through school, and really, really enjoyed it. Again, I wasn't naturally fantastic at it, but I really liked it and I worked really hard at it. I really enjoyed high school, played sport and played music, lots of music. I always was around animals. I was brought up with cats and dogs in the house, and apparently I said when I was about 4 and a half that I wanted to be a vet, and it never really changed. Kids go through those, you know, I want to be a fireman and I want to be a nurse, but I think I always wanted to be a vet. Well, all through I loved science. I loved getting outside and doing planting the garden and getting into the ag plot at high school and things like that. So I did chemistry and physics, which was really, really difficult, and 3-unit maths, which was also really difficult. But I enjoyed the science side of it. Maths was never my strong point. So I guess it was probably in year 11 that I realised that I had to take these particular subjects to get into the course that I wanted to get into, which was vet science. I was bright academically, but I wasn't going to get 99% in my HSC. I was starting to think that maybe I wouldn't get into vet straight out of school, and so I was looking at other science degrees as well, and so I focused on trying to find the best science degrees that I could do that would incorporate zoology and mostly animal stuff. And then when I finally did get into uni, it wasn't into vet. I didn't get the marks straight out of school, but I did get into another uni to do science, and at that uni I could choose to do science and arts together, and so that allowed me to major in music as well. So I majored in music and English in my arts degree, and zoology in my science degree. I was pretty good at playing, but I was also managing a youth orchestra at the time, and I managed and played in a string quartet, and I taught students. But I kind of quickly burnt out, I guess, of music. It's quite a difficult profession to be in. It's this idea of having to be perfect all the time, and certainly in vet there is that as well, but it wasn't my main passion. And actually in my second year of that degree, I applied for vet science again and didn't get in again. When you get rejected from something, I think it's a little bit harder to take then than it would be, let's say, now for me. And then when I finished the 4 years, I tried again to get in. And that time I didn't actually put an application in. I rang the faculty of veterinary science, and they just said that I still didn't have the marks and they weren't prepared to interview me. And so, again, I took a bit of a hard hit, you know, because this is really what I wanted to do. I ended up getting a job just by chance at MoA Zoo as a zookeeper. I always say that I didn't get the job because of the people, it was because of the animals, because the owner of MoA always took the new keepers on a tour of the zoo, and the point of it was to see how the animals responded to the person. A Debraza monkey actually got me the job. Laura was her name, and she hated almost everyone except for the odd few. And apparently I was the only person that she'd said her kind of grunting hello to in about a week. So yeah, she was pretty much it. And I think the meerkats warmed me pretty quickly as well. And then I quickly became the senior small mammal keeper down there. And I was working with small cats and small primates, otters, meerkats, red pandas. So like a really big range of animals. I ended up having to do a lot of the large primates as well, and sometimes help out on the cats. So MoGo has a huge range of species, and from snow leopards and tigers right down to little tiny tamarins, golden line tamarins, and I got to work with all the species. Sometimes jobs, you do them for a while and they're brilliant and you love it, and then there's a time and you just know that it's time to move on. Down at MoGo, I also worked a little bit with the local vet, and she encouraged me again to apply, and I put an application in for vet. Applying for a place at uni as a mature age student is a little bit different, I guess, to going straight from school. So you have to sit a stat test. They're saying that it's an intelligence test. You can do it more than once, and they take your best score. So I sat that test 3 times before I got a score that I thought was competitive. Yeah, I applied to every university in Australia and in New Zealand as well, and then the one that I really wanted to get into was the only one that accepted me, so it was perfect, really. I loved it. It was great. It's an interesting course. The uni really supports people through the vet degree. I mean, it's just such a relief to finally get to the end of your dream, but the graduation day was the best day ever, and with all my friends, all my great friends around me, and it was a brilliant feeling. Being a mature age student is a little bit harder usually than when you're a kid, because mum and dad still help out, but you are expected to be an adult and get yourself through uni. So I did have to work throughout my degree, and I worked as a vet nurse, and some of my nursing was done here at the Exotics Hospital. When the veterinary position came up, I was still in my final year of uni, and the director here asked me to apply, and I did, and I didn't think that I would get the job, to be honest, because I was going to be up against people who had several years' experience, maybe. When I found out I got the job, I was really stoked. Working at a veterinary centre means that you have the scope to do lots of things that you maybe wouldn't be able to do in a general practice sense. It's a dog and cat recovery food, so it's really high in fat, just to build up sick animals. Yeah. And then we add the Wombaroo reptile supplement, and it's just easier, really. I mean, we could feed crickets if we had them, yeah, but it's hard to keep crickets for a long period of time. And when people come to you because you're in a specialist hospital, they're, I guess, willing to do all those tests and do all those things that you may not generally do in general practice. It's almost like running 2 hospitals here. We see exotic pets and we see wildlife. So obviously Australian wildlife is all the reptiles and birds and all the mammals. Then the exotic pets are birds, reptiles, pocket pets, which involve ferrets, rabbits, rats, mice, and then I see frogs and fish as well, a little bit. Okay, how are you guys today?
Good.
It's good?
Pippa and Buddy.
All right, so Pippa.
Pippa.
Yep, Buddy.
Buddy, boy, Buddy.
Yeah. All right, and how old's Buddy? Very rarely see 2 of the same species in a day, and I usually don't have 2 of the same species in hospital at any one time, so it's challenging. I'm always having to change the way I think, because a frog is certainly nothing like a rabbit, but the medicine that you use on those species is from first principles the same. Conservation and sanctuary work are my real passion, and that's what I hope to go more into as I become a competent vet. And I set up a small little non-profit. Jane Goodall, who has worked with chimps all her life and is an amazing woman, asked us if we would help on a Nepalese project as well and help them build a wildlife rehab centre. We built 3 smaller enclosures and then a large, or finished off a large enclosure. And they were basically for some common leopards. So these guys in Nepal were helping with confiscating animals from the illegal pet trade, which is rife through Nepal. And so the government doesn't confiscate them at the airport because there's nowhere for them to go. And so the point of the rehab centre that we were putting up was that the government would stop that movement of animals because those animals would then have somewhere to go. In a country like Nepal, amazing, beautiful place, but very difficult to get things done and to maintain projects when you're not on the ground. And so what I would love to do is to go back and run it like a proper clinic. That's on the list of lots of different sanctuary work that I would, just love to do. Within 2 years, I hope to be good at what I do, great at what I do, and then from there, be able to use those skills and knowledge and ability in sanctuaries, stopping illegal trade and working in conservation, and I want to be the vet for that. I guess what I would say to somebody who didn't get into what they wanted to do first up is take every little bit of experience that you have in whatever field it is and use it to make that dream come alive. My name is Jane and this is my story. I grew up in Campbelltown. I had a passion for music, but I wanted to be a vet from 4½. I applied 4 times to get into veterinary science, and it was 4 times lucky for me. I set up a conservation project in Nepal with leopards. Being a vet is challenging and different every day.